Good evening. This is the Warrant and Finance meeting of January 9th, 2012. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss and provide our recommendations to the Select Board regarding the warrant for the special town meeting on February 7th. We do have quorum tonight. Looking for a motion regarding the agenda, approval thereof.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Seconded.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as written. Any discussion? Considered approved. Moving on, we have no minutes. We do have a couple of sets of minutes that have yet to be approved, but they're not prepared yet, and I need to be organizing that a little bit more, but nothing tonight. No unfinished business. New business. Town warrant discussion and recommendation. I'm looking for a motion regarding the warrant. I guess we will be talking about question 2 first off. Question 1 is sort of a Article 1, to choose a moderator by written ballot and to preside at said meeting. Article 2, shall the following amendments to the town zoning ordinance be enacted? 6.2.7A, all new 1 or 2 family dwellings, their accessory buildings, renovations or additions on existing structures shall be built in compliance with the 2009 International Residential Code, IRC, as adopted by the state of Maine, including all amendments. B, all new multifamily dwellings, commercial structures, their accessory buildings, and any renovations or additions on existing structures shall be built in compliance with the 2009 International Building Code, IBC, as adopted by the state of Maine, including all amendments. And there right now are no recommendations for Warrant and Finance and none for the Select Board. So the purpose tonight is to get the Warrant and Finance recommendations.
I make a motion that we recommend that Article 2 be passed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion that Article 2 pass as written, and we have a second as well. And we move into the discussion phase here. I do expect that we will have some discussion, although we had talked about this at previous workshops. I open the floor. I guess, Mark, you get the first crack since you made the motion, assuming you wish to.
I'm not totally happy with it because I think it'll be modified before we probably get it passed with the idiots back in session in Concord. But I also feel that we shouldn't be without a building code.
We're talking State House at Augusta, correct? Yes. I tend to agree that we're somewhat at the mercy of the state of Maine. One thing that's worth mentioning as well, and I think it was talked about at the planning board hearing, is that when we put this in, we're doing this as adopted by the state of Maine. So we get what we have right now, but also moving forward, if the state of Maine should adopt this differently, either omit something that they've already gotten or put in something that they haven't, that they don't have. And I'm thinking here in terms of the chapters that they've adopted or not. Unless they specifically state otherwise, the town's going to go along for the ride. So unless they say, like they did in their infinite wisdom before, oh, okay, everybody in the towns, all your building codes are gone, unless they do something funny like that, it is assumed that we will be picking up whatever the state does without actually going to town meeting again. It's just...
Yes.
Yeah, so that's another degree that we're at the mercy of the state of Maine, for better or worse. I mean, they may do something that we think is good, in which case we won't have to have a town meeting to confirm that. But on the other hand, there could be, anything happening that may not be advantageous to us.
No, 3 around there.
At the level, Ken, you're directly involved in this and have been since September of last year. What is the outcome of this? Do you have any idea if this would be changed again?
It's at the state level, it's hard to tell. It seemed like when they got it in there, they wanted to leave it alone for a little while, but there was politics that changed it and made it updated. The building code themselves is every 3 years they have a new one. Whether, I think the state's going to leave it alone for a while. When we adopted the 2000, it's been 10 years since we kept updating it because it wasn't substantial. It was just a lot of smaller stuff. But I think it's going to stay like that for a while. Nobody's going to touch it this year anyways, is what they're telling us.
Do you think that, I know that before all these things happened in September, we had the 2000 code, not, so we're jumping all the way to 2009 for, reasons that are previously explained. If they go to, or when they go to the 2012, is it likely that, or more likely, that they will allow this 2009 to sort of allow us to stick with the 2009, because that's what we'll have in our zoning ordinance?
Right.
Or would we conceivably need to jump to 2012?
It all depends how they write the law up there. It could automatically merge it all back together like it did last time, and then we all jump together. A good rule of thumb is to stay one edition behind. That way they're the architects, engineers. It's been out there for 3 years. It's easier to maintain. Like the 2012 is out now. We'll run with the 09. Leave it alone for a few years.
So let them hash out and make all kinds of missteps on the new version.
Yeah.
And we can sort of keep on the more stable
Yeah.
version.
Amendments for the 2015 have to be in the end of this month. So the cycle is so advanced, it's hard to keep up to.
Okay, thank you. Did members of the committee get an opportunity to get at least even an overview of some of the attachments that were on the actonmaine.org website? One thing that I found kind of interesting is, and this is on top of what we had been discussing previously, and for the folks at home, you might want to go out there as well, it helps to organize this a bit. It's been pointed out that this whole issue is kind of convoluted, kind of tough to put it all in one place where you can really take a bite out of it. But what's up on the website actually has the IRC, which is the reference in 627-627A, the International Residential Code. So up on the website, you see the chapters that are included in the IRC. And then the next link shows you the chapters that were adopted specifically by the state of Maine from that. So there are certain chapters that we will not be adopting because the state of Maine did not adopt. We're adopting according to how the state of Maine did, assuming that the town says, yes, we want to do this. And one of the chapters that is not included in this thing that we're about to vote on is the energy efficiency. And that's going to be covered in the section C. Next question. Now, as far as the items that are not adopted by the state of Maine, this looks pretty close to what was specifically delineated in the first version of this thing.
Correct.
So we're rather than risking having us do something different than the state, if the state does something different,
Yep.
we're sort of hitching our horse to their wagon, or vice versa, probably.
Staying consistent with it.
We're hitching our wagons to their horses.
Yeah.
And then going. And we're essentially saying everything is according to how the state of Maine adopts this in the future as well. So unless they say otherwise, we would be doing the same things. Probably worth mentioning, for those who haven't seen any of the hearings or our previous workshop, that the whole reason that we are here in the first place is because as of December 1st, due to action by the state of Maine, we do not have a building code. We still have plumbing, we still have electrical, we do not have, as far as the wood, where the wood falls into place, there is no building code at this time. It's strictly voluntary. There's no enforcement. And question 627, or 627A and B of the zoning ordinance, which is proposed in Article 2, would be to essentially restore our building code as adopted by the state of Maine. And if we do not vote in Article 2, we will continue to have no building code. There are 400 towns in the state of Maine that are affected by this. We are one of them. I would think most of the towns are probably just letting it ride right now,
Yeah, a lot of.
but it may be advantageous to not do that, to actually come up with a building code again. Any further comments, questions, statements, clarifications? Okay, hearing none. It's been moved and seconded to adopt Article 2, or to recommend adoption of Article 2 as written. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Five zero, the motion passes. Article 3. Shall the following amendments to the town's zoning ordinance be enacted? Section 6.2.7C. All applicable construction shall meet the 2009 International Energy Conservation Code, IECC, to regulate the design and construction of all buildings for the effective use of energy as adopted by the state of Maine, including all amendments. Warrant and Finance Committee recommendation and Select Board recommendations are at this time blank. Looking for a motion on this one.
Move we recommend passage of Article 3.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend adoption of Article 3 as written. Any discussion?
Ken, is this going to cause any problems?
What do you mean by problems?
Well,
It's been in effect, this code has already been in effect for 18 months or so in town. So if you haven't heard of any, then, you know, been coming up already. It's real similar to the 2000, there's a few different areas that are a little bit more stringent, but very few.
and you've had no negative feedback at this point?
Some of the high-end builders that are using spray foam insulation, that's 2 to 3 times more cost-effective. When you're adding to that, it does generate more for that, but I had just looked at regular fiberglass insulation for like a 28 by 40 home. The only additional cost, making it a little thicker in the attic, was $156. The more expensive area is going to be when you have to insulate your piping that carries the hot water, not the domestic for the showers, but in the heating systems. You'll have to wrap that to insulate that to keep the heat where it belongs, coming out of the registers and the baseboards. So that could add up, depending on how big your house, how many zones are. It's more and more and more, but as we see fuel getting more and more expensive, eventually there's a buyback to it.
Yeah, there's an ad on TV right now about the old couple who asked the state to come in and do an energy audit, and obviously the house was old, and they ended up insulating all of the outside walls because none of them had insulation in.
just wrap
and the
them up.
guy said he had a 50% saving in fuel, which makes sense. And I was involved in the spray-in insulation in Arizona. And when they first started, it was far more expensive. But we refit the trucks with different fans and blowers and stuff, and they managed to cut it down so it wasn't that much more expensive than putting in fiberglass, and the energy savings were unreal. So I can't imagine anybody building a new house today and not looking into, because everything I've read says that the best use of your money to save energy is to increase the insulation factor.
Is this the provision that was sort of, that you foresaw some kind of problem depending on whether the house was year-round or not?
There is an exemption right now at the state level that is in effect until the middle of June of 2012, which is even more confusing. That one just came in September to allow an exemption for seasonal dwellings that didn't have pressurized water hooked up to it after October. It was just an odd rule that they threw in there for 7-8 months. I'm not sure why. Hopefully it's so they can officially adopt the rule and keep it into the law and exempt the seasonal dwellings.
But it applies to summer cottages only.
The
The
seasonal
exception
dwelling,
is for, so the minute you decide that you want to make it a year-round home, you
Yeah.
have to go back and insulate it, which costs
Yeah.
far more than doing it when you do it the first time around.
and whether it was today's standard or 20 years from now when they'd go to make that year-round place seasonal.
Standard insulation now is what, 6?
Inches in the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the wall, and then
It was an R19, they're calling it an R20 now. So they've changed something in the formula of it, so they've beefed the walls up a little bit. And the ceilings are an R49.
oh, isn't there such a thing as getting a house too tight?
Yeah, in the 2012 code, it talks more about the blower door test, and it's a test to see how many air exchanges per hour your house is having. And if they're giving you a small window where you don't need it, but as soon as it's too tight, you have to put in a whole house fan and ventilate, circulate it, which is common in Canada where they're really energy efficient up there, and they're too tight. You gotta exchange the air, bring some fresh air
They
in.
want you to recirculate your no-see-ums?
Yeah.
You see the water dripping off the roof or something. the
Yeah.
ceiling, right?
If your boiler sucks in outside air, is that enough to exchange?
No, that would
It just
be
goes
part of
into
the
fire.
equation,
It just
yeah.
goes into the fire.
Now, you had said in your opening remarks, or a bit ago, something about that we had it, or were you even talking about our town, for 18 months?
Yes, the 2009 was in effect. So back in 2010, the state nullified and voided any prior building codes that were locally adopted and implemented the 2009. So we got rid of our 2000 due to that state law,
Yep.
and we started using the 09. And that got us about 14, 15 months before they then changed the 2000 to 4000 and got
So
really
we, in fact,
complicated.
did have the Chapter 11 in there, effectively,
We had the energy code was
up to
adopted.
this latest event.
Yeah.
Where we lost
Yeah.
our building code.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we were using the 09 right up until September. October, November, December, so 3, 4 months ago.
Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else that, and I know we talked about the wording of this as well, the question 3 at the planning board hearing. I think that the end result of it is pretty comprehensible.
Yep.
Pretty comprehensive, and it fits in with question 2. For the record, the town has the option of going with any combination of Articles 2 and 3. Essentially, what we'll end up with is no change to the zoning ordinance, or we will put in Articles Section 627A and B, or we will put in Section 627C, which is question 3, or we will do both. Any further comments, questions, clarifications?
Well, I would urge the people that are either building new or remodeling or whatever to stay in close, tight quarters with the building officer, the code officer, because I think they're gonna have a lot of questions. There may be some problems.
If it goes in or if it doesn't go in?
Well, if it goes in, even if it goes in, still gonna be, there's gonna be a lot of questions.
Yep. And I know we talked about this with a question that I asked earlier, but it's worth stating for the record. Assuming these go in, or any combination of these go in, they are taking effect pretty much the next day after town meeting, correct? No burn-in period?
No, this particular state law allows us to retroactive back to September 29th of last year, but that just made it more confusing to me, because you were building then, but we weren't doing inspections, but now you'll get a certificate of occupancy for work done during them. So day after town meeting.
So it goes
February
into
8th.
effect. It goes into effect right off.
Yeah.
And anything that occurred while these codes were not in effect from, December 1st through February 7th is just essentially water over the dam, and if people chose to go the extra non-legally required mile, they'll benefit from that, and if they chose not to, they'll probably hear about it at some point down the road when they go to sell.
Did you have anybody that didn't ask you to do it?
No, everybody's still complying with it.
Excellent. It's good to hear.
Yep.
Okay. We have a motion on the table to recommend as a committee that Article 3 passes as written. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, that covers the warrant. Just finish up on our agenda here.
Thank you too, Ken, for the information.
Thanks.
Been very helpful.
Yeah, if you haven't looked at the website, that's got almost everything on it, right on the homepage, so.
Yeah, Ken and Jen have been working on it all week, and they got all 3 building codes on there, and it was a lot of work.
It's,
Appreciate it.
I'm sure it
really
was.
helpful. I mean, it takes, putting a man on the moon, and it almost turns it into Sea-Dick Run, but maybe not.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, as to other business, we have none. We have really no public, so
Have a good night, Ken.
we'll move on. As far as next meetings go, we do not at this time have a Warrant and Finance Committee meeting or workshop scheduled. However, as a committee, we're going to be involved in other agencies' meetings and workshops, so things are going to start ramping up. The things that are relevant to us at this time, we're taking a slight sidestep here in terms of topic. Tomorrow night, the school committee regular meeting is scheduled at 6 p.m., and that's January 10th, at the Acton Elementary School. This will include discussion of the proposed school budget. So, once again, if anybody wants to be involved in what the school budget discussions and how it evolves and how what you see at town meeting gets formulated, please be involved. Don't just sit in front of your television. Go to the meeting. Participate. There is typically a public commentary section, so avail yourself of that if you want to do that. A couple days later, this will be Thursday, January 12th, still this week, Select Board regular meeting. at 7 PM. And this will include a public hearing regarding this question, or these two articles that we've just discussed. There will be a select board vote on the warrant. Essentially, they'll be making their recommendations just like we did, although it may not turn out the same way. And they will be signing the warrant for the special town meeting, all at that particular gathering. The special town meeting itself is scheduled for Tuesday, February 7th, 6 PM at the Acton Elementary School, and it will be voting on this warrant, Articles 2 and 3 being the meat of the matter, these two articles that we just discussed. And that's it for our meeting. So we'll be talking a little bit further when we get a chance to meet with probably some folks, some groups in town. I suspect it'll have to do with the municipal budget that we'll be actually scheduling our first workshop.
Yeah, we've asked them all to give us their budgets by the end of February, so we could start scheduling meetings in March where they'll come to you and present their budget to you.
Okay, so March. We'll probably have a little layover in February, although I suspect the school budget is going to be going fast and furious during that time.
Has to, if we're gonna have a meeting in April, they'll have to get going.
Okay, so we'll definitely be meeting more here. The last item on our agenda is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I would say we are adjourned. Thank you very much.